on this holy night, even though we are on the eve of the new year, I am going to share a Christmas story. It is a magical tale of adventure and initiation. It is called Bergkristall, and it was written by Adalbert Stifter, who lived in the middle of the 19th century. I will read my translation abridgment. Stifter had a natural, realistic approach to storytelling, as was in keeping with his time. But if you listen closely, you will hear the deep, timeless resonance of fairy tale. So now, sit back, relax, suspend your disbelief. I will costume upon my head a storyteller's hat, so that I may best garner the glamour of your goodwill and gratification. One of the most beautiful church festivals comes in midwinter, when nights are long and the days are short, when the sun slants toward earth and snow mantles the fields. That festival is Christmas. In many countries, the evening that precedes our Lord's Nativity is known as Christmas Eve. The day following is called Holy Day, and the night between, Holy Night. Gifts that the blessed Christ child has brought are given at Christmas Eve when dusk has deepened into night. The children must wait until the sign is given that the Christ child has arrived. Only then is the door thrown wide open, and the sparkling radiance of the candles reveals objects hanging from the tree or spread out on the table. If later in their dreams the children hear the midnight bells calling the grown-ups to church, it will perhaps seem to them that the angelic host is winging its way across high heaven, or that the Christ child is returning home after visiting children everywhere and bringing to each a wondrous gift. Among the high mountains of our country, there is a little village with a small but needle-fine church. The hamlet nestles in the center of a rather wide valley. South of this little village, you will see a snowy peak, a mountain with dazzling horn-shaped crags rising as it seems from the housetops themselves, but quite far away. All year round, summer and winter, there it is with its jutting crags and wide expanses looking down upon the valley. Ascent of the high mountain is made from the valley. One follows a smooth, well-made road that winds over a mountain pass into another valley. It is a mountain pass of moderate height that passes between two ranges. By following the pass carefully, a person may travel safely between the ranges from one valley to another. The little village I have told you about is called Gscheid, and the great snow mountain that looks down upon the little village and its houses is called Gars. On the other side of the mountain, however, there is a much more beautiful and fertile valley than the little valley of Gscheid. This other valley is home to the stately market town of Millsdorf. Millsdorf, unlike Gescheid, is a sizable town with several kinds of mills and many buildings that house trades and crafts. The inhabitants of the market town of Millsdorf are much more prosperous than the villagers of Gescheid. And although the distance between the two valleys is only a 3-hour walk, the manners and customs of the two valleys are so very different that you would think that untold miles separated the two locations. No young woman ever leaves her native valley except on rare occasions when, obeying the dictates of love, she follows her husband into another valley, there to make a new life. And so it was that when the beautiful daughter of the dyer of Millsdorf married the humble shoemaker of Gescheid, this young woman was still regarded by the people of Gescheid as a stranger and outsider. Although they were not unkind to her and even loved her for her charm and virtue, there was always something missing in their friendship. A reserve, or perhaps a sort of shy respect, that kept the young woman from enjoying the same warm familiarity and intimacy that existed between the people who were native to the village of Gescheid. The cobbler's wife bore her husband a son, and several years later a daughter. She felt, however, that her husband did not love the children as much as she thought that he ought to, for he looked so serious most of the time and was always preoccupied with his work. He rarely petted or played with the children, and he always addressed them quietly and soberly, as one speaks to grown-ups. In the matter of food, clothing, and material things, however, his care for the children was impeccable. At first, the mother of this beautiful young bride from Millsdorf came often to Gescheid to visit her daughter, and the young married couple also at times went over to Millsdorf to attend church fairs or other festive occasions. But after the children were born, things became different. Now, mothers may love their children and tenderly long for them when they are absent, but a grandmother's love for her grandchildren amounts almost to a passionate longing. The dyer's wife, the grandmother, would often come over to Gescheid to see her grandchildren. But when age and health made these frequent journeys inadvisable, well then, a different plan was devised. Everything was reversed, and the grandchildren visited their grandmother instead. When older, they went on foot, accompanied by their mother or maid, and when the lad had grown strong, knowing, and self-reliant, his parents let him take the familiar road over the mountain pass by himself, and even when he begged to take his little sister along, if the weather was good, they would allow the little girl to go with him. Oh, there was nothing unusual about this. Oh, no. The villagers admired physical strength, and they were glad to see it in their children. And so it was that the two children went over the mountain pass more often than any of the other villagers. Even though they were born in Gescheid and lived there, they were thought to be children of Millsdorf. On clear days, the children could be seen early in the morning making their way down the valley, across the meadow, and coming to the place where the forest looks down upon Gscheid. Going up into the forest, they would keep to the mountain paths, finally reaching the highest point, and before noon, after about 3 hours of walking, they descended the sloping meadows into Millsdorf. Their grandmother always knew with a sixth sense when they were coming. She watched from the window, and when she saw Sanna's red handkerchief dancing in the sun, she recognized them from far away. Grandmother then led the children through the wash house and into the living room. She made them sit down, and she would not let them open their neckerchiefs or sweaters lest they catch cold. After the midday meal, they were allowed to go out and play. In the afternoon, even before it was time to go, Grandmother would begin urging them to start back so that they would not be late reaching home. One winter, the day before Christmas, when in the valley of Gscheid early dawn had broadened into day, a faint, clear weather haze overspread the sky, so that the sun creeping up in the southeast could be seen only as an indistinct reddish ball. The shoemaker's beautiful wife said to her children, "Since it is such a fine day, and since it has not rained for a long time and the roads are hard, and since yesterday your father gave you permission provided it was the right kind of day, well, then you may go over the pass to Millsdorf to see your grandmother, but first you must ask your father again." The children, still in their night clothes, ran into the adjoining room where their father was talking earnestly with a customer. They begged him, since it was such a beautiful day, to give them his permission. And as soon as they had his consent, they ran back to their mother, who dressed them with great care. When everything was right, the mother said, "Now, Conrad, listen carefully. Since I am letting your little sister go with you, you must start for home in plenty of time and do not loiter. As soon as dinner at your grandmother's is over, you must leave at once and come straight home. The days are short, and the sun sets early." "Yes, mother," said Conrad. "And watch out for your little sister, Sanna. Take care she doesn't fall or get overheated." "Yes, mother." "Well, God protect you. Now go and tell your father you are leaving." There was no snow anywhere in the valley that day. They said their farewells and departed. From the footbridge, the children raced across the meadows straight to the woodland. They came at last to the outskirts of the forest, and they hurried into it. With playful enthusiasm, they no longer kept to the smooth path by the road, but walked in the ruts, seeing which ridges would bear their weight. When in an hour or so they had reached the crest of the high mountain pass, they discovered that the ground was so hard and frozen that their steps rang upon it. Another hour or so, and the children came running down through the meadows into the valley of Millsdorf. Their grandmother, as always, saw them coming. She came out to meet them, and she took Sanna's cold little hands into hers, and she led the children inside her house. She undid their wraps and put fresh wood in the stove, and she asked what kind of day it had been in Gscheid. Then when they had answered, she said, "Oh, that's good, that's all right. I'm glad you came, but this time you must be off very soon. The days are short, and it is getting colder." Then she asked how their mother was, and how their father was, and had anything else happened that she should know about. After dinner, she patted Sana's little cheek, and it was quite rosy at this time. Then she bustled about here and there and packed to overflowing the lad's calfskin pouch, and she stuffed many items into his pockets. She also put various goodies into Sana's little pockets, and she gave them each a piece of bread to eat on the way back, 2 rolls, 1 for each, in case they became hungry. "And for your mother," she said, "I am giving you some well-roasted coffee beans, and here, in this tightly wrapped bottle, is some black coffee extract. It is stronger than your mother usually makes. It is a veritable tonic, so strong, actually, that the merest sip warms the stomach so that a person cannot feel chilled even on the coldest winter day." After a word or two more with the children, she said they must go. "Take good care of Sana," said the grandmother. "Don't get chilled. Don't get overheated. The wind may come up toward evening, and then you will have to go slower. Greetings to mother and father. Tell them that your Opa and I wish them a right Merry Christmas." She kissed them each on the cheek and hastened them forth. She accompanied them through the garden, let them out the rear gate, shut the gate again securely, and came back into the house and shut the door. By the time the 2 children, after some strenuous walking, had arrived at the heights above Millsdorf, a few snowflakes had begun to fall. "See there, Sana," said Conrad. "I knew it would snow. Remember when we left home, we could still see the sun as red as the lamp over the high holy altar in the church during Holy Week? And now we can't even see the faintest ray. And there's only gray fog up there over the treetops. That always means snow." The children walked on more briskly, and Sana felt delighted whenever she caught a falling flake on the sleeve of her dark coat. The snowflake did not melt for quite a long time. "Is it snowing at home now?" said Sana. "Oh, certainly," answered her brother, "and it's getting colder, too. Tomorrow the whole pond will be frozen solid. You'll see." "Yes, Conrad," said the child. The little girl all but doubled her steps to keep pace with her older brother as he strode along briskly up the mountain. Up and up they went, following the winding road, now west to east, now east to west, now west to east again. The road went on, and the wind predicted by their grandmother had not come up. The air, on the contrary, had become so still that not a twig or a branch vibrated. In fact, it felt warmer in the woods, as is usual in the winter among the tree trunks. The snowflakes fell thicker and faster, and the ground was already white. Soon the snow became so thick that they could see only the nearest trees. "Will we be at the post marker soon?" asked little Sana. "I don't know," answered her brother. We may not see the post marker at all because there is so much snow. But that's nothing. We'll just keep straight on. The road leads through the trees and then starts downhill. And when the path comes out of the woods, then comes the footbridge, and then we're not far from home." On they went, climbing the path steadily. The children drew their wraps closer to keep the ever-falling snow from working in on all sides. They quickened their steps, but after a great while, they still had not reached the postmarker, the place where the path turned downward to Gescheit. At last they came to a tract with not a single tree visible. Where are the trees, Conrad? Asked Sanna. Perhaps the road is so wide we can't see them because of the snow, said the lad. Yes, Conrad, said the little one. But in a short while the lad came to a halt and said, I don't see any trees myself now. We must be out of the forest, yet the road is still going up. Let's stop a minute and look about. Perhaps we can see something. But they did not see anything. Only white emptiness. The snowfall continued. The snow covered everything. You know, Sanna, said the lad, we are on that dry grass I have often brought you to in summer, where we used to sit and look at the grassy floor sloping up, where the beautiful herbs grow. We shall turn right now, and soon we will be going downhill. Yes, Conrad. The days are short, as grandmother said, and you yourself know, Sanna, so we must hurry. Yes, Conrad, said the little one. Wait a minute, I'm going to snug you up a bit, said the lad, and he took off his hat, and he put it on Sanna and tied the 2 ribbons under her chin. The kerchief she had been wearing was too slight a protection, whereas the profusion of curls on his head were so thick that the snow would rest on them a long time before the wet and cold could penetrate. Then he took off his little fur jacket and drew it on his sister up over her little arms, only with his shirt to protect him now. He tied about his shoulders the little shawl Sanna had been wearing. It would do for him, he thought, if they could just walk at a brisk pace. He took his sister by the hand, and thus they started on again. However, they could not tell whether they were going up the mountain or down the mountain. They were lost. Where are we, Conrad? Asked the little girl. I don't know, he answered. If only my eyes could make out something and I could get my bearings. But on every side was nothing but blinding whiteness. Wait, Sanna, said the lad. Let's stand still a little and listen and see if we can't hear something. Then we'll know which way to go. They stood still and listened, but they heard nothing. Not a sound. After waiting a considerable time, they went on again, and soon massive rocks loomed up, dark and indistinct. The rocks rose so sheer and straight that hardly any snow could cling to their sides. Sanna, Sanna, said Conrad, be careful. My eyes hurt, said Sanna. Don't look at the snow, answered the lad. Look at the clouds. My eyes hurt too, but it doesn't matter. I must look at the snow to find the road. But don't be scared. I will get you down to Gescheit, I promise. Yes, Conrad, said the little one. They went on again, but whichever way they went, they never went downhill. They continued walking, but always up. Ice. Nothing but ice. The children saw great slabs of ice lying covered with snow. All these irregular icy shapes had been driven into one another, helter-skelter, and overlapping them were great white cat paws of snow. "We are on the ice now," said the lad. "Sanna, we are on the mountain, the great snow mountain that looks so white in the sun from the garden. Now, think hard about this, Sanna. Do you remember when we were sitting in the garden, how pleasant it was? How the bees hummed around us, and how sweet the linden smelled, and how the sun was shining so brightly upon us. Do you remember?" "Yes, Conrad, I remember." "Oh, we would look at the mountain then. Remember how blue it was, blue as the gentle sky, and how we saw snow up there, even though it was summer in the village and the wheat was getting ripe?" "Yes, Conrad." The children went on into the ice wherever they could find a place to step securely, ever searching for a way back down, but ever proceeding up. They were just tiny moving dots among the formidable masses. "We have to get over this, and then we can run down away from the ice," said Conrad. "Yes," said Sanna, and she clung tightly to her brother. They had intended to climb down the other side, but there was no other side. As far as the eye could see, there was only ice, pointed masses and irregular clumps thrusting up from the fearsome snow-encrusted desolation. Walls of ice rose ever more ahead. They were cracked and fissured with innumerable meandering blue veins. Beyond these walls were many other icy barriers, and beyond these even more. The falling snow blurred the distance in a veil of gray. "Sanna, we cannot go over there," said the lad. "No," said the little one. "We shall just turn around and get down somewhere else." "Yes, Conrad." The children then tried to climb down at the place where they had clambered up, but they could not. There was nothing but ice, and it felt they had missed the direction from which they had traveled. They turned this way and that way, but they could not escape the ice. It was as if they were clasped by the icy arms of Father Winter. Finally, they came to other deformed fragments, larger and more intimidating. By crawling, by clambering, they somehow managed to get out. At the edge of the moraine, they found gigantic boulders heaped up in a way they had never imagined. Many were shrouded in white. Others had a smooth, high, polished surface. Some were tilted together like houses. Some lay piled one atop the other like giant, misshapen clods. Not far from the children, several of these slanted together and made a shape like a house, open at the front but closed at both sides and at the back. It was dry inside, since the snow had been falling straight down. Night had fallen. "Sanna," said the lad, "we cannot go any farther because it is night, and we might fall or even stumble into a crevasse. Let's go in under the stones where it's dry and warm, and let's wait there. The sun will come up again, and then we'll be able to run down the mountain." Sanna did not cry, but when they had both gone in under the projecting stone roof where there was room to sit, she sat down close to her brother and was still as a mouse. "Mother's not going to be angry with us," said Conrad. "Don't worry, Sanna. We shall tell her all about the heavy snow that has kept us, and she won't say anything. And neither will Father. If we are cold, remember, slap your body with your hands the way the foresters do, and then you'll feel warmer." "Yes, Conrad," said the little one. But now hunger made itself felt. At almost the same instant, they took out their pieces of bread and ate them. They ate the other things too, bits of cake, almonds, and nuts, and little things that grandmother had slipped into their pockets. Now, Sana, we must get the snow off of us, said the lad. We must not get wet. Yes, comrade, said Sana. It had stopped snowing by this time. The children felt not a flake. They went back into the stone house and sat down. Getting up had shown them how tired they really were, and they sat down wearily. Conrad took off his calfskin bag. He got out the cloth that his grandmother had wrapped around the cardboard box, and he laid it about his shoulders for warmth. He also took 2 rolls from the bag, and he gave them to Sana. The child ate them eagerly, first one, and then only part of the second. The rest she gave back to Conrad, for she saw that he was not eating, and he was very hungry. Then they both sat, and they gazed straight ahead, silently. As far as they could see in the dusk, snow lay upon everything. Separate tiny facets scintillating curiously here and there, as if, after absorbing the light of day, they were now reflecting it back again. Darkness had fallen with the suddenness usual in high altitudes. It was dark all around. Only the snow continued to shine with its pallid glimmer. This was the moment when people in the valleys light their candles. At first, only one candle is lit and placed on the table, or just a pine splinter or a fire in the hearth. A brightness from all the windows where the family is gathered shines out into the snowy night, and on this evening, above all, Holy Night, there would be many more lights to shine upon the presents lying spread on tables for the children or hanging from Christmas trees. Countless numbers of candles would be lit, since in every house, in every cot, in every room, there were one or more children for whom the Christ child would have brought something on which the candles must shine. But for the children in the snow, the ground all about lay bright in the starlight. They saw no valley, nothing familiar. Nothing was to be seen anywhere but whiteness. All was white. After a great while, Conrad said, Sana, you mustn't go to sleep. You know what Father said. If you fall asleep on the mountain, you will freeze to death. No, I won't go to sleep, the little one answered wearily. But she yawned. Conrad shook her by the hem of her frock to rouse her and make her listen. The night was silent. Presently the lad was conscious of a gentle pressure on his arm that grew heavier and heavier. Sana had fallen asleep and had settled down on him. Sana, don't go to sleep. Please don't. No, she murmured. I'm not asleep. Yes, you are, Sana. Get up. No, she said. I'm tired. Then suddenly it came back to him. What grandmother had said. Just a tiny sip warms the stomach so that even on the coldest winter day you cannot feel the cold. So he picked up the calfskin bag, he opened it and groped about until he had found the little flask in which his grandmother had poured the black coffee extract. He took the wrappings off, and with considerable effort, he pulled out the cork. Then he leaned down over Sana and he said, Here is the coffee grandmother is sending Mother. Taste just a little. It will make you warm. Mother would allow us to have it, if only she knew what we needed it for. But the little girl, who only wanted to sleep, said, No, I don't want it. It is bitter. I am not cold. I'm just tired. "Oh, please, just a little, Sana. Try it, then you may go to sleep." This prospect tempted Sana, and she nerved herself for the effort. Ah! Sana almost choked on the strong extract. Conrad, too, drank a little. The double distilled strength of grandmother's extract had an immediate effect, an effect even more powerful because the children had not tasted coffee before. Instead of going to sleep, Sana became more animated. She admitted that she was cold, but she said, she felt quite warm inside now, and that her hands and her feet were getting warm. The children even chatted together a little bit. As soon as the effect began to wear off, they took more and more of the extract despite the bitter taste, and their young nerves, unaccustomed to the stimulant, were strung to a pitch of excitement sufficient to overcome the dangerous drowsiness. It was now midnight. At home, they had always fallen asleep on Christmas Eve, when it grew late, under the positive strain of joy and overcome by bodily weariness. They had never even heard the peal of the church bells or the organ at midnight mass, although they lived quite close to the church. Now, in the vast stillness which prevailed, a stillness so great that not a snow crystal seemed to stir, now 3 times they heard the thundering roar of the ice. The glacier had made the sounds. 3 times they heard this roar and thundering. It was a sound so awesome that it felt as if the earth had broken asunder. The boom reverberated through the ice, through even the tiniest vein of ice and rock crystal. The children sat with their eyes wide open, and they gazed upward at the stars. Something began to happen. A faint light bloomed amid the stars. It described upon the heavens a delicate arc. This faint green luminescence traveled slowly downward. The arc grew brighter and brighter until the stars paled away with a shudder. The light invaded other parts of the firmament and took on an emerald tinge that vibrated and flooded the entire sky. Then, from the highest point, radiant arcs shot forth like points of a crown, all aglow. The adjacent horizons caught the brightening flash as it flickered and spread in faint quivers through the night sky in silent, magnificent shafts of illumination. Said the children. After a while, the brightness paled. It grew fainter and fainter, and at last it became imperceptible. There was nothing to be seen in the sky but thousands and thousands of familiar stars. Nothing special happened after that. The stars sparkled and fluctuated. Now and then they saw a shooting star. "Sana, it's almost day," said the lad. "Yes, Conrad," said the little one. "When it's a bit brighter, we shall leave the cave and run down off the mountain." It grew brighter, and there was not a star to be seen, and every object stood out in clear daylight. "Well, let's get going," said the lad. "Yes, Conrad," answered Sana. They stood up and tried their legs, which only now felt very tired. Although they had not been asleep all night, they felt refreshed by the morning. The lad slung the calfskin pouch over his shoulder, and he drew Sana's little fur jacket closer about her, and then he led her out of the stony retreat. "Sana," said the lad, "we're not going out there on the ice again, because we can get nowhere on it. And since we can't see down into our valley anyway, let's go down the mountain in a straight line. We are bound to come into some valley. Yes, comrade, said the little one. They started down through the snow in the direction that seemed most promising, and the lad took his sister by the hand. But when they had worked down for a time, the slopes changed level and began to rise. The children therefore altered their course and crept along a sort of gully, but it only led them to the ice again. So they clambered up the side of the gully to find a descent in some other direction, but the way to the pass and to the path homeward was not to be found. Now as yesterday, they could hear nothing, not the faintest whisper, and they saw nothing but snow. But at length the lad thought that he saw a fire. Look! It seemed to him at last that on a far distant snowfield a flame leapt up. It disappeared, leapt up, and disappeared again. Now they saw it, now they lost it. Then, after a while, they heard faintly, very faintly, across the still blue distance of the glacier, something like the long sustained note of an alpenhorn. Ooh! Instinctively, both shouted with all their might, "Hello! Hello! We're here!" After considerable time, they recognized the flame for what it was. It was not a flame. It was the red flag of rescue. Meanwhile, the horn sounded nearer, and again they answered, "Hello! Hello! We're here!" "Sanna," exclaimed the lad, "people from Gescheit are coming." "Yes, comrade." After a while they saw people too. The people had clustered around the flag. They were little black dots that moved about. Now they saw the herdsman Philip with his alpenhorn and 2 sons. They also saw the young woodsman and several men from Gescheit. "Praised be God!" cried Philip. "There you are, children! We are scattered all over the mountain. Someone run down to the upland meadow and ring the bell so they will know that we have found him. And someone get up there on top of Crab Mountain and set up the flag so that they can see it from the valley. And you over there, fire the rifles to let the people from Millsdorf know. Praised be God, what a Christmas!" The young woodsman took Sanna by the hand with Philip, and with the others helping as best they could. After a time they caught sight of an alpine hut. Inside a fire was burning, and Mother was there. When she saw them coming, she gave a heart-rending cry and sank down to her knees on the snow. Then she stood and rushed to her children. She devoured them with her eyes and wanted to give them something to eat and wanted to make them warm and wanted them to lie down and wanted them to rest on the hay. But then, satisfied that happiness had given her children more strength than she had supposed, she grew calmer. She saw that they needed only warm food and rest. Because of the commotion in Gescheit that morning, the priest postponed the high mass. He supposed that the children would soon be found, but when time passed and no word of rescue arrived, the good father decided that the high holy rites must proceed, and he commenced the celebration of the mystery. Thus, when those crossing the valley meadow heard the little bell that signified the elevation of the host, they all sank on their knees in the snow and prayed. When the sound of the bell died away, they rose and went on in a merry fashion, chattering and laughing. Grandmother from Millsdorf had driven over the pass, and she was waiting in Gescheid. Never, never, as long as they live, said Grandmother, never shall the children be allowed to walk across the mountain pass in the winter. The children themselves were quite bewildered by all the commotion. They were given something to eat and put to bed. Later in the evening, when they had somewhat recovered, and while neighbors and friends congregated in the larger room and talked about the events of the day, the children awakened. The mother came in and sat by the bed with them. The children said to her, "Mother, last night when we were up there on the mountain, we saw the Holy Christ child." "Oh, my brave, long-suffering, my precious, my beloved children," answered the mother, the Christ child has sent you presents, and you are to have them now." The cardboard boxes were unpacked and the candles lit. The door to the big room was opened, and from their bed the children saw the belated, brightly shining, welcoming Christmas tree. Despite their fatigue, they wanted to put on some clothes so that they could go into the other room, and there they received their presents, and they admired them and soon fell asleep with those presents in their arms. Well, it was a Christmas forever remembered in the history of Gescheid, the subject of endless conversations, and it will be talked about for years to come, especially on clear days when the mountain is unusually distinct, or when someone is describing the mountain and its mysteries to strangers. From that day on, the children really belonged to the village of Gescheid. No one considered them children of Millsdorf any longer. Oh no. On the contrary, they were regarded as natives whom the villagers had brought home to Gescheid from the mountain at dawn of the holy day. And their mother, the beautiful bride from Millsdorf, who had married the cobbler in Gescheid, she too was regarded as a native. For as long as they lived, the children could never forget the mountain or their adventure on Christmas Eve. Whenever they fixed their gaze upon the mountain or any mountain with icy slopes, they remembered the heavenly event at midnight. And often in the garden, when the sun shone bright and warm, and the linden tree diffused its fragrance, and the bees hummed about the blossoms merrily, the children looked up at the mountain, serene and blue in the sky of summer, and they recalled their adventure upon the ice at midnight on the mysterious holy night in winter.